I think I said last time this was the last meeting before summer holiday. I was wrong. This is the last meeting before we take summer holiday. So sorry about that. We have some announcements. Yes, on the 1st, we had 11 students joining us on 4 projects. 3 of the projects are funded by the Student Innovation Fund. A group of 5 students will be creating educational material and events for children on space and astrophysics and space science. We are also doing a historical research on the 4 space launches done by the French Space Agency from Iceland in 1964 and 1965. And that we are doing that in cooperation with the French Space Agency, so we're very pleased with that. The third assignment has to do with habitat design for the Moon and Mars, and how Iceland can kind of participate in that and be more active in it. As you might know, that Iceland is sort of a lab for scientists from all over the world, including those trying habitats for particularly the Moon and the Mars. And we want to engage a bit more on that and maybe increase participation by Icelandic architects and scientists here. So they are doing a report on that and will be kind of looking into what we could do to improve. And they will also work with Chill Ice, the habitat testing mission that will be here this summer and the following 2 summers, testing out a habitat for the Moon. And the 4th one, which we are just supporting by Space Iceland, since it wasn't accepted to the National Fund, is a Copernicus air quality measurement for the city of Reykjavik, where we're combining data from the city and counts of traffic and so on. Google as well, they have one of the best traffic data that you can find for Reykjavik with Copernicus data, and we are trying to measure air quality in Iceland and train an AI to predict as well, with more accuracy than we've previously been able to see. Rather than just having segments of the city under red or yellow alert for air quality, we want to be able to pinpoint it a little bit better to individual school or kindergartens or public offices. So those are the 4 projects that we are working on this summer. I have to admit that I haven't been able to remember everyone's names yet. It's only been 2 days, so I will not be introducing everyone. But we'll introduce them on social media and our website soon. Another event, we just signed a contract with Copernicus and Galileo. We are now a regional associate for Iceland, and we are working on becoming a prize master for next year. We decided it would be better to start just as an associate, but we're hoping that next year we can design a challenge for Iceland in particular. There is a bill now in Parliament, which we've been actively following, and I mentioned before, that will take the first steps toward Iceland being able to register space objects and facilitate bigger launches. So that's a huge step for us, and we're actually quite happy with that. It makes everything a lot easier for the office once that is passed. The city of Reykjavik is now doing an overview of their industrial and innovation policy, and we've been engaging with them, and our hope is that they adapt Earth observation and the facilitation of tech transfer from space into that policy. But there have been no promises made yet. We've just engaged with them. So that's it from me now. I'm happy to see how many people are here, and it's live on Facebook as well. But we have a speaker now from the Swedish Space Agency, the director of the Swedish Space Agency, Anna Rathsman, And we're very excited and honored that she's willing to take time from her busy schedule to talk to us. So I'm just going to pass over to you, Anna, and maybe you can introduce yourself and take it from here. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for inviting me. My name is Anna Rathsman, and I've been lucky enough to work in the space environment since the late 80s. We started I'm electrical engineer from the beginning. And when I started to become electrical engineer, I didn't know at all like I want to work with space. But in different ways, that's what it ends to. And I started to work for the Swedish Space Corporation. And at the same time, they started to make national satellites. So I came into that design team, and have always had very small teams, and we have built scientific satellites. And now after that, I have done a lot of other things. I've been project manager for the first Swedish microsatellite called Astrid, after the author Astrid Lindgren. And I also was a system engineer, and that was also launched successfully. And then I have had the opportunity to have a lot of different positions within space, and working towards the scientists, towards innovation and EU and ESA and everything like that. And since 3 years, I'm the Director General of the Swedish National Space Agency. And since 1 year, I'm the chair of ESA Council. So that is my life up to now. And I would like to give you a short presentation. And afterwards, if you have questions, feel free to ask them. And also you can interrupt if you like that. And I try to give you a picture of what we are doing in Sweden and what we think is important. So now I'll try to share this, see if I'm going to succeed. We are quite small agency. And we are a very small agency if you compare to other countries in Europe. 25 employees. And we have an annual budget of 100 mega euro, and that's is of course a lot of money, but we have to do a lot of things also for this amount of money. And we were established already in 1972. So next year we are celebrating our 50th anniversary. And we have 3 main tasks as an agency. Is to satisfy Swedish need of space infrastructure and operations, to promote Swedish space industry and space research, and ensure that Sweden contributes to and benefits from European Space Corporation. And what is very good with the Space Agency is in Sweden that we are really covering all the different areas. We are working with subsystem, with satellites, with innovation, and supporting small companies, building both satellites and subsystems. But we're also working towards the scientists, and both nationally and internationally. And also then we work with data downloading, how to do that in an efficient way to really use it in a good way, the data. And also we're trying to really make all the young people interested or be educational within space. So that is very good. But of course, as you can see, we're so few people, so we are quite highly loaded with work. We are under an agency under the Department of Education in Sweden, and we've been there for quite a long time. And we have one bucket of money, so we can decide by ourselves at the agency how to use the money in the most efficient way. And we think it's very important to have both a national program and an international program. So even though we put really the huge amount of money, around 75–80% into the international market, for ESA is where we put the majority of our money, but we also have a national program. And I think that's extremely important to build up the different capacities in different areas to be competitive to the rest of the world. So that is extremely important for us. And what has been really for me, the driving source is really what you can use space for, I mean, the data for, and you know all this, but I think it's one really big challenge we have in Sweden in general is to really try to inform decision makers and politicians to understand that it's not just for fun to launch satellites and satellites or rockets or things like that. And of course, that is fun and very important. But it's also extremely important to understand what you can use the data for. And I think people don't understand in general that they can almost all the different areas, for departments in the government have the need of space data and use it already. And that's a challenge to really get them to understand that. We have a history. We started actually already in the beginning of the 60s, launching small sounding rockets for the north of Sweden. You see, this is not so impressive, but I think they did very good science. And then also during the years, what we are proud of, we are building satellites. As I said, I was starting with one of them, they're called Freya. And the next one we're going to launch this year, the 8th one, and it's actually MATS. MATS is measuring in the mesosphere the different waves. It's a climate satellite and it's a Swedish satellite. And we think, as I said, to have this competence, I think is extremely important. And we can already see that the platform used for MATS is already sold commercially, but also used in ESA project. So this is a way where they can, when you do something, you can use it for different purposes. We have an astronaut, Christer Fuglesang, but it was quite a long time ago now when he went up in space, but he's really an ambassador in Sweden, working a lot at the university, but also in companies to really promote space. And we have been successful in a lot of different missions. I will talk about that later. And also we have quite a lot of key competences in the companies in Sweden. And just to give you some example what we're doing within our industries, and it's micro propulsion, MEMS technology, is green propellants, is computers, we are also good at some parts at launchers, building subsystems within AOCS, and also, of course, to take care of our data. But this is tough actually, because we give them orders, we ask them to develop the different things, and we have different programs, but they have to be successful by themselves also, because we cannot do everything for them. We try to support as much as we can, but they have to earn, of course, their own money. But I think, and also I think this is important, and if you look all over the world, that quite a lot of money in the space business is institutional. And I think it's mostly the basic development or innovations are paid by institutional money. But then when you have this kind of development, you can use it in a lot of commercial applications. So mostly I used to say that I call it semi-commercial, because it's very few areas that is really commercial. And if you look at Elon Musk, for example, and of course he is commercial, but he wouldn't be alive if he hadn't got a lot of orders from NASA, for example. So this is a really an area where you have a mixture of a different kind of money. And in US, they have an advantage of quite a lot of venture capital. That is not the situation right now in Europe, but I know it's increasing, and I hope that's going to be better, because I think you need to combine different kind of sources to be able to achieve what you would like to do. Here's our satellites, and actually we have also built some more micro satellites, and also some ESA missions. Sweden was actually responsible for a mission, the first European mission to the moon, called Smart One, with electrical propulsion. But all these missions have been very cost efficient, because we never got a lot of money. So we have to do it in a very cost efficient way with small teams. And I think that's a big advantage for us now, because we have people, very lot good of system engineers that can have a lot of knowledge of different systems. And that is actually I think it's extremely important to have a system knowledge to be able to really make optimization of different parts in a good way for the whole system. So next one is MATS, and we have in line for this innovation satellites called next one is called SEAV, and it's already decided, and there's also climate satellite. And we have just for the satellites and the missions, we have an external board, scientific board that are really given the recommendations to ensure that we have a good science on our missions. And as I said, we have been putting a lot of money into ESA, and this is because they can, together with all these 22 member states, we can do big things. So next thing for us is really going to Jupiter next year on a mission called JUICE, going to the icy moons of Jupiter. And here we are responsible for 2 experiments, and also we are taking part in a 3rd one. So that is a big obligation for us. And also we are now responsible for what we call Arctic satellite, Arctic weather satellite. And that is a precursor to EUMETSAT, hopefully. This is also, we use the platform for MATS as a baseline. And there we can really, with this much more cost-efficient platforms, deliver a service that is not as so expensive, but still deliver very good data. And the PI for the platform is Swedish, and also PI for the payload is Swedish. And I also would like to point out that it's very important to have both working with the infrastructure, we believe so, and also for the data download, the data exploration, because we think it's important to have the good balance, because they are of course dependent of each other. We have Srange, and we are really happy for that. It's very easy to get there actually. You just fly directly from Stockholm to Kiruna, take you a little bit more than 1 hour and 1.5, and then you take a car for 40 minutes, and then you are at Srange, the middle of nowhere. And it's a unique area because you have this very big area on land where you can land this big, the payloads from the sounding rockets with a lot of experiments, but also the huge balloons and things like that. But it's also a good location for launching satellites. And we have got support from the government, and they have invested in infrastructure there to enable us, enable SSC, Swedish Space Corporation, to build up the infrastructure to launch satellites from Sweden. And this is hopefully going to be, the first launch is going to be in 2022. And I think the situation, or maybe beginning 23, but I think we're quite lucky because we have been launching sounding rockets, and some of them are quite big actually. So we have done that for more than 500, 600 of them. And of course, then you learn a lot how to launch things. And then you have to have respect to take the next step to launch satellites, of course, but you have a lot of knowledge about safety, regulations, and what to handle to be able to launch these sounding rockets. We also have a test site of test engines here, that is test beds, that is ongoing. And at the same time, we have usually a lot of campaigns there, not maybe now in the COVID time, but otherwise, a lot of campaigns with a lot of scientists staying up there for a long time for studying and preparing their experiments and taking care of our data, and huge balloons and things like that. So it's a fantastic place. So if you have the opportunity to go there, I think really you should. So let's keep our fingers crossed that we're going to be able to be a launching state. And we actually, as I said, we also now are working, I mean, an investigation to create a new space law, because our space law that we have in Sweden is extremely old and is a half page. So it's not so much to really use any longer. So now is ongoing, and it's I think the report will be ready at the end of this year. So that's really good. And also in combination with that, we also did looking at space situation awareness and everything, how to take care, how to do this in a safe way. Data downloading, data exploration, and as you all are aware of, the amount of data coming down is really, it's exploding. And you're talking about the Copernicus tour before, and then Copernicus is, of course, a very important system with all the free data that they have, and also development with new payloads that will be able to measure a lot of new things. That is extremely important. But it's not so easy maybe always to just take the data and use it. And therefore, we have started with taking initiatives together with other stakeholders in Sweden to start something that we call Swedish National Space Data Lab. And here we are using a free set of data called DataCube, and it's open source. And in that you can think of a matrix where you take down the data from satellites, mostly in this case from Copernicus, but you can take it from other sources. And you also put a lot of geodata of different kinds or socioeconomic data and whatever you like. And then you can get out the information that you really need in a very easy way. So we have a lot of pilots ongoing that have been really successful. And now we're really trying to make this as established to really be able to use it. And this will be open, free for everyone, free for agencies, free for people of developing countries, companies and everything. So that is something very good. I guess we will also increase what the effort we do in this data exploration to really be able to support, because the need of the data is fantastic. It's really fantastic. This is just an example. You know, we have some very big lakes in Sweden, and due to different reasons, we have to have the water in a very stable level. And this means that we have problems with the species and the fishes in the lake, because they are used to different levels and they need to survive. And there have been a study where we put together satellite data and a lot of other kind of data to really see if the fishes here could survive in a good way and what would the next step be. And when you do studies like this, you can really see, and we can see the whole Sweden, of course, and put a lot of different studies together to understand what the situation is. And the use of data, what you can use data for. I mean, I can talk about that for days, and I will not bother you. I think it's just your imagination that can really set the line. But I know also in Sweden, you know, we have put a lot of support to Africa to really build them, for example, to help them for the poor people. And it's difficult to measure how, if this money they send there is really helping the people there, to really measure that in a good way. And they find now ways that they really measure the light during the night when they fly over the satellites over Africa. And then they put into a lot of other kind of information about the development, the money put into everything, and seeing how this lights in Africa during nights increases and develops. You can really see if the money put there give it right, help in the right way. So this is just some examples. And of course, I just put this picture here for you to understand. You see, the limit is, you know, the space has no limit. And for us as an agency, it's really fun, because we have lots more and more areas that people or the government would like to be involved in. And I think it's both important to really be curious, be involved in missions to use Jupiter, as I said before, to also also understand how can we help the life on Earth and the space, you know, the Agenda 2030. And but I think in general, I can say that we are really now at some kind of end of the road, or the government of Sweden has to decide what to do next, because we can really see that the lots of countries in Europe, but also around the world, they really put space up on a very high strategic way in level in the government. So, and they also really say that we have to invest a lot in space because it's very strategically important for almost all the political different areas within the government, but also for our innovation. You know, we have this possible way for up in development of the country. And in Sweden, we have done a lot with the money we have and really try to do what we can. But as all the people, almost all the countries that we are collaborating with are increasing their levels, what they're doing, we need also to do that. And we try really now to convince our government how the important space is for the development of the country. So this is quite exciting for us to see what happens. So we are proud of what we are doing, but we have also our challenges. And I think you, as a very small, space nation, you will really grow. But I think it's important to take it a step at a time, and that's what we have done in Sweden. So I can stop there. And if, oh no, sorry, I have this about maths also. And here you can see that we are measuring, and we're going to be sent up with a Russian launcher from not before the 1st of November this year. So please wish us good luck here. So thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Well, we now have some questions and some talks. Are there any questions that have arrived already? So if you want to ask it on camera, then you have to turn on your camera, and I'll put the spotlight on you. All right, so we have a question from Christian. Well, few questions, so I'm just going to ask them. First of all, is why is the satellite called MAT?
It's an acronym. You know, it's we all do like in Sweden. It's measuring. It's if we look at that picture, it's a mesosphere and everything, and we try to make it as a name so it's easy to remember it. So it's just it's an aberration of what it's going to measure.
All right. And the second question is: are any of your satellites or probes driven by ion thrusters?
Yes. It is. The one that went to the moon has this electrical propulsion, and it was actually a technical test of that mission. So it took the satellite over 1 year to get to the moon, but this is a very efficient way still to really transfer itself to the moon, and then would catch up by the moon and made a lot of science. And I think after that smart one, it was. A lot of geostationary satellites are using more and more the electrical propulsion.
All right,
and
thank you.
It's xenon gas that is used for the ion there.
Thank you. And there's quite a lot of questions. So,
that's good.
Yeah, and Christian says thank you. Arnar Skarp, he's one of the students involved with the habitat design. He's asking, is the Swedish National Space Agency involved in any Mars or Moon habitat research that you know of?
Yeah, but not so much. We have, if you look at the mission now to, you know, the NASA mission now that is on the surface of March. We have some Swedish scientists that is involved in how to choose samples now to take home and things like that. And I know there are also some scientists working on the habitats, but not so much, but a little bit. And we try to participate in these different programs towards the moon and towards Mars, also with an ESA. But ESA have a very close collaboration with NASA.
Thank you. The questions are pouring in here, and guys, feel free to ask in person, but I'll ask these. Being on the same latitude, is it useful to launch a research balloon from Iceland across to Kiruna? That's from Andrew Ball.
It could be possible, I believe, because but it have to be. You have to have because it's quite interesting because the winds have the different directions during different seasons. So, for example, you launch from Srange, and then it goes towards over Iceland, and then go over America, and we have to take it down in Canada right now because we're not allowed to fly over Russia. But we call it circumpolar. But if we were allowed, we'd done that once. It could take maybe 12 days to launch from Kiruna and go all the way the whole way around. And during the winter time, it's going in another direction. So if it's stable winds, that I think it is on Iceland, I think it could be possible.
All right. Well, okay, so there's another question here. Everyone is shy, so I'll ask them. How was the cooperation between the Swedish Space Agency? How has the cooperation between the Swedish Space Agency been with the European Space Agency and the EU space program? Has Sweden been able to acquire successful amount of research and implementation projects compared to other participating states?
For ESA, so that's they have this geo return system. So that means that you have to for the mandatory programs, which is a science program and other kind of programs, you have to pay a bill that is a percentage of your BNP in your country. But for the rest one, the voluntary programs, you put money into the ESA and that you should have the same amount back, almost the same amount back. And that is called geo-return. And we always, all the time, checking that it's not too far below 1. So it should be 0.199 or something, so we really get back. And there we are very successful, actually, to really have industries that, because it's not only for us we are putting money into programs where we believe that our industry will be successful. Because then when we have a program, they are competing to get made a computer or something for a mission. So they have to win that. But so it's a lot of different steps before we got the money back, but we have been very successful there. For the scientists, we support missions there, but when we go for Jupiter, for example, the use. So when we are selected there, it's very good, but we have to pay the payloads by our national money, and that's the rules how it works. But that's what we have been successful. We are not so successful, I would say, with EU program in space, and here we need to make more progress there. But we find it quite difficult to compete there with an EU space program because the competition is extremely high, and also you have to have a lot of things in place. So if you're a small company, it's not so easy to be there, but I hope it's going to be better.
All right, thank you. I forgot to tell you who asked this question. It was Arnór from Isavia ANS. Mm-hmm. So thank you, Arnór. We're always happy to see you. So we have
a small question regarding data. I'm simply curious, is the most data you're collecting, is it focused on space and, seeing how the star clusters and such things, or is it focused on Earth and how the Earth is moving and, practical things?
We are interested in both. So, for example, if you look for JUICE, for example, Jupiter, here we are starting to support them in the beginning of the mission. And then we support them and are helping them to receive data until, I think now we have an obligation until 2034. So that is really from space. But then also we're working, as I said, with this National Space Data Lab to really help our agencies to use the data in a good way, to look at the forests or the water or agriculture and everything like that. So we are working with both parts.
Thank you.
All right, Auðun, I'm going to put the spotlight on you and you can ask the question.
Yeah, hi, my name is Auðun and I'm with one of the students that is doing the project, the outreach project to do a workshop with kids in schools in Iceland. And I was wondering, if you have done any outreach projects in Sweden, or if you're going to schools or have some sort of project that tries to get the interests of the kids regarding space.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that question, because I forgot to mention that, because we are working quite a lot with that also, because I think it's extremely important to get the interest of studying math and physics and things like that. So what we're doing is we have different things. We have a program when we have education for the teachers in the school, so that they can really educate the pupils. But also we together with ESA something called E0, and there we also have a lot of initiatives. And we have some tools there and things that if you go into our homepage, our webpage, you will find some information there. And I think it's for free also if you have, and I think some part of it is actually in English, so maybe you can use it.
Yeah. So you've mostly been giving the teachers material to teach themselves, and don't have a like kind of a workshop that travels around and visits schools?
Not so much, because we have some programs. It's about you have some I think it's a little bit bear or a small bear or dog or something that's traveling out in space and going to survive, and you have this rocket going to land, and they're going to have to make some software programming the people in school to see how they survive and things like that. So a lot of things. So we educate the teachers, and then they learn the people in school. But also we have a group of people called that are young people that have a club, they can call, and they are also around the whole of Sweden. They meet, and I think they're between 15 and 25 or something like that, and they have some kind of club, and they meet and they make some tests and education and space schools during the summer and things like that. So different kinds of initiatives, and I think that's very important.
Yeah, that sounds very good. Thank you, and I'll definitely look at the stuff that you have on the website.
Yeah, please do that.
All right, the questions are pouring in. So we have a question from Jinkai. He is he's designing a CubeSat, which we are supporting. How is the relationship between the Swedish Space Agency with the commercial companies in the space program? How is the components being planned to design and engineer in order to create a cost-efficient space mission?
I think it's we have a good relations with them, of course, and the Swedish way of building satellite is quite it's quite straightforward, and it's we also have been always traditional, been dared to make some not shortcut, but maybe not following all the rules that ESA are doing, for example. And here's a way to choose how much level MTB is figure and things like that. How good should it be? But I think it's if you are building a CubeSat, I think it's good to really try to understand the system level so that you have a system requirements in place. And then for a lot of the components on board, you can choose off-the-shelf things, so you make it very cheap and cost efficient. But then if you are building this kind of small CubeSat, and then you go to ESA, say, I'm going to use this CubeSat, then you have some problems because they go into all the details, and you have to make a lot of calculations. So it's little different schools here. But I know that ESA is trying to have different programs. Once for this going to the Jupiter, because then you have to have redundant systems and do all the calculations that are really sure that it's going to work. And also some when you have small emissions that you can allow some failure. I don't know if that was a good answer to your question.
You're doing very well, Anna. That was a good answer. Thank you. So we have more. There's a question here from Sophie. She's asking, how do you combine space awareness and cost-effective missions? Where do you actually cut the cost but still stay relevant in the international market?
I think the important thing is to really concentrate on the component or the part of the satellite that is really critical. And of course, you have to be sure that it works when it comes up. When you talk about the space situation awareness, I think the need of that and the need of really ensuring that the satellite that you send up really either have a system to put it down in the atmosphere actively, or if you have this satellite going in low orbit, so it automatically come into the atmosphere and burns up. But just to leave things or also when they're trying to destroy satellites, we have a lot of different small parts. It's really, really a problem up in space. So this space situation awareness is going to really increase in importance, this area, for the future. I'm sure about that. Because, we have this infrastructure together. So if you try to show something, and then we know that India did that, they really have got some satellite to explode, and that's a disaster. It's not impressive at all. It's just, it's not a good way to do things. Just try for yourself.
All right. Arthur asks, what nations are leading space nations in Africa? Because you mentioned that you were quite a lot.
Once more, please, once more. What? I didn't hear.
Which nations are leading space nations in Africa? Because you mentioned your work with African nations.
I'm not sure actually. I know that South Africa have some abilities, but I think several of the nations in Africa has bought satellites. This is what I believe, for national satellites to measure things that is important for the country, for agriculture, for see the drafts and see where they how they go into the forests and everything. So I think it's to check the resources and to understand, to have independent information about the country. So maybe they don't have the ability to build the satellite by themselves, but they are for sure customers.
Thank you. There are a few more, and then we're almost done. But please, guys, send in more questions. So Arnur from Isavia asks, in what field has the Swedish space industry excelled in past space projects? Computer, software, launch, or space hardware, for example?
I think we have been on the system level, as I said, with these small cost-efficient satellites. We have been very good. And actually, we have been invited to the Congress, US Congress, to explain how we work. And how we did it and started was that we really had a small team responsible, sitting for the different systems and sitting around the table and really make a lot of decisions. So it's very efficient. But we also is green propulsion. We have some networks, some Skybox has changed name now to something else. It's a constellation. But they have chosen to have green propellant instead of hydrogen. And hydrogen is not good. It's very efficient fuel, but it's not good at all. So this company, ECAPS, has really developed this system, and they're very successful. We have RUAG, they're making their computers and also their adapters. They're world leading for that. We have JKN, or building parts for Ariane rockets. So we have several areas that we are quite good, but it's important for us to develop that all the time, because if you don't develop, you really are lagging behind.
Thank you. And there's a follow-up question from Arnur. I guess Sweden is participating in the Galileo program. Will Sweden enjoy the use of the public regulated service, PRS, and what are considered the best benefits there for Sweden?
I think we are absolutely using the PRS, but we are not been starting to use it as much as, I mean, it's on the way. But I think especially the police, all the emergency agencies are really interested to use this PRS signal, and I think that will increase a lot in Sweden, because this is something very good, a good service that you can use for a lot of things. But this is also a matter of education. We're trying to really inform people what they can use this PRS signal for.
Thank you. And there is the last follow-up question. The Swedish launch site, what will be the capabilities of the future infrastructure in terms of launcher size, launch to LEO, MEO, geostationary, sorry, or even further?
It will be, they are aiming now. Actually, I was involved in this work before I started to work for the agency, and at that time we said that small launchers would aim for 150 kilo or something, and also we looked at solid rockets. Now things have changed, and now they're thinking of a few liquid rockets and up to 1,000 kilo, 1 ton, and they will really use it for LEO, not for the other ones. And of course in different levels for LEO, for sure.
All right, we're almost finished. You're doing very well. Thank you for answering so quickly. So there's another question here from Jinkai. So how has there are two questions from him. How has COVID affected the space activities and the market value generated by space operations in Sweden?
Not so much, actually. I think some of our companies has a combination of aircraft and the space. And there, of course, the aircraft market has really been declining a lot. But in general, the work has been ongoing. And there have been some problems with these people that, especially in the beginning, you know, with the AIC, when they had the integration phase in missions. So there really was a stop there, a gap there. But otherwise, it's ongoing. But of course, everyone is tired of doing it mostly from home. But mostly everything is ongoing, actually. And of course, Srange have had some really difficulties because it's difficult. Because when you have a campaign, people are working very close together to really achieve this, be able to launch and take down data and things like that. And that has been hard for them. But hopefully, they can start very soon.
Thank you. And just as a follow-up, does the Swedish Space Agency have projects that have contributed to Artemis Gateway by ESA and NASA? Are you involved in that?
Yes, we are involved, but not so much actually. We would like to, but it's what's the money is really. We have to have something there, but not much, unfortunately.
All right, thank you. I'm going to sneak in one question by me, and then we'll have the final two questions, and thank you. So I was really interested in the Swedish National Space Data Lab, the project that you're starting, and I think that would apply. We would have a need for that here in Iceland because we do collect and use quite a lot of data, but it is a bit fragmented. Can you tell us a little bit more about it? Am I understanding it right, that you're trying to create like this sort of a platform of data from infrastructure that is more easily accessible by everyone, or is it specifically for the government?
No, it should be accessible for everyone. and we have it's still in the establishing phase. That's why we do a lot of different pilots, and that we do mostly with different agencies. You know, taking care about the traffic or the forest or things like that. And there are different test cases to understand how you do that. And also we put together, we have an AI institute in the south of Sweden that are involved with their knowledge, artificial intelligence. And then we have a very big data source and data handling in the north of Sweden that also have a lot of computer force to take care about this. So, but we do this in an alliance, you can say, together, and an establishment that everyone can use. So it's going to be open. So the open source, we use this open source and everything. And if you need more information, I can maybe connect you with someone at the agency who can give you some more information so better understands it. And maybe you can find some of those at the website. I guess so, but absolutely.
We'll absolutely have a look at that. And I have to say congratulations on that project. It is a huge issue in almost every country.
Yeah.
All right. So I have a question here from Ari, which I'm so two questions from Ari. Has the agency launched satellites for radio amateurs in the past? For or with radio amateurs? Have you done satellite
radio
projects?
amateurs? No, I don't think so. We haven't done that. No. You know, we haven't launched satellites before, so we will start with that. We have done some tests of different kind of science with our sonar rockets, but they go just up and down in the area. So we haven't launched anything in orbit yet.
Right, thank you. And then there's a bit of a cheeky question, which is related to what the US Senate is discussing now. There's a question here if you guys are aware of any UFOs, since the report is coming out.
No, I can't say that, but I think it's really a lot of different signs that in Sweden and around the world that they really see the space infrastructure, some very important infrastructure. And of course, if you have an infrastructure like you have a road or whatever, this case is the space. I mean, you can use it for both good and bad. And I think it's extremely important that you have to, of course, take care of what you have and not do foolish things and like that. But I think it's very important to keep it free, as much as possible, open and free, and delivering free data. But the interest of space from a lot of nations is increasing for security reasons.
All right. Thank you, everyone. That's it for the meeting. Do you have anything that you want to add, Anna? Or
no, I just wish you very good luck with all your different activities.
Brilliant. Thank you. So I'm going to end the live event. If you would mind, could you stay on for 1 or 2 minutes?